Hey, this is Alicia,
This is Melissa.
and this is Dark.
Dark. We never know how to start when we do this.
No, we never know how to start when we do this, but I do know one thing. I spent more time than I probably should have on how to pronounce
Glasgow?
Glasgow. It's actually Glasgow.
Oh, sweet Lord E.
I know. I was like, okay, and here's the reason why I spent so much time trying to figure out how to pronounce Glasgow. And the reason why is because every podcast that I know of where they mispronounce the word Glasgow or the city of Glasgow, they get yelled at.
Oh, yeah. Let's not get yelled at.
I was like, I'm going to make sure that I pronounce this correctly. And so I was even Googling it. I even did research on the city of Glasgow and how they got their name.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
And there was a whole article on what's the right way to pronounce Glasgow. And our Glaswegians saying it wrong, right? That made me laugh. But here's the very interesting thing that I found out about it. Okay, so what happened is in 1736, it was actually a Gaelic origin for the name.
Uh-huh.
It is referred to as an Irish language that signified greyhound or greysmith, alongside the Gaelic origin of the name, which is noted to relate back to clays, meaning ravine or hollow, and dew, which means dark.
You want to know something funny?
What's that?
Even funnier. My topic has to do with Ireland.
Oh, awesome. So you're going to be doing. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yes, my topic has to do with Ireland.
Okay. So just want to go ahead and give a shout out. We have a special guest today. She was with us during our cold case story. She's sticking around for us to do our normal, regular release for the week, since you guys are getting 3 this week. So I want to give a huge
Aren't
shout out.
y'all special?
So welcome, Christina from Red Rum Cosmetics, for sticking around. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate being on here.
Absolutely.
It's exciting.
And if you guys don't miss it, go back and listen to our cold case story, where we feature Jessica Gutierrez, and we also learn a little bit more about Red Rum Cosmetics. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, we won't make you reiterate the whole Red Rum thing, I promise.
Yeah, it was very long, and I apologize.
No worries.
I'm working on summing it up.
No worries.
Though the fact that it's called Red Rum makes my Stephen King heart
so happy.
Just so happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's the most heinous crime out of them all.
It is, but it makes my little Stephen King heart just smile with glee.
This week, you guys, this one, okay, I'm going to be honest with you. This could have been a 2-part series, but and the reason why I'm shortening it down a little bit is because there is a podcast that did this in a 2-part series, and they did such an amazing job of it that I don't think I could beat it. So I'm going to do my version of it. It's going to be a little more toned down. But if you guys want to hear a really good version of the story, definitely go check out Morbid, because I'm telling you, she broke this down in ways that I just couldn't even believe. And so definitely go check that podcast out. But I'm going to do my own version of it. So we're going to be talking about Ian Brady and Myra Hindley, also known as the Moors murderers. And for those of you who have never heard this story before, saddle up, because it's a big
buckle up, bitches.
Yeah, this one's woo, this one's crazy. First of all, trigger warnings to everybody. We are going to be talking about murder, sexual assault, pedophilia, and a lot of other things that are just bad.
Yes. That are, get it? Dark?
Dark. Yes, exactly.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Please don't cut up. Please don't go away.
All right. So let's start with Myra Hindley. Myra Hindley was born in Crumpsale. Crumpsale. I'm not 100% sure. But
Oh no.
she was born in England in 1942 in July 23rd. So that would make her what?
July 23rd. Are you looking for her zodiac?
Yeah, she's not a Gemini. It's after Gemini. Oh my
Give me a minute.
My brain's not working.
Neither is mine.
Oh my God.
You said July 23rd?
She was a Leo.
Yes.
Hey, Christina.
You got a pal.
BFFs.
I am so sorry.
You might regret saying that here shortly.
You might, for sure. Okay.
We can edit that part out, right?
Hey, we can't say anything because, I'm associated
Delphine LaLaurie was born on March 19th, which is Alicia's birthday.
So was Pee Wee Gaskins, who is my cousin removed. So there's that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's funny is I just recently learned my sister did Ancestry, and on my dad's side of the family, we're Italian. We're all from like Jersey. And we found out that our great-grandfather was named Augustus. Apparently, he was a murderer. Like he murdered my great-grandmother with a hatchet.
Oh my God.
It's crazy because I learned about that. This is totally sidetracked, and I'm sorry, I'm totally having a squirrel moment.
That's okay.
We have them all the time.
About crazy memories. Yeah. So my sister was going through these articles and she found this arrest record for Augustus Luciana. He had apparently killed his wife, my great-grandmother, with like an axe or a hatchet or something. And I meant to say this yesterday when we were talking, or on Friday, because I was listening to the story that you guys did with Lizzie Borden.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it just reminded me of it. I was like, man, that was all around the same time my great-grandfather was in Jersey doing the same thing.
Oh no.
My great-grandfather was a judge at the Salem witch trials.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Which is real funny because now I'm Wiccan. It's quite comical now. But yeah, he was the only judge to repent for what he had done. So,
well, he tried to redeem himself at the end.
He tried. I'm not quite sure how well it worked. Giles Corey cursed him. That makes so much sense now.
Makes too much sense.
Oh, my family's got bad luck everywhere. That makes so much sense now. Bitch.
Yeah. So we all have that little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? We all have
chaos.
Yeah, we have a little bit of chaos in our family history. Myra had a little bit of chaos herself when she was growing up. When she was young, her father, who was in the military and had gotten out, and he was in the Second World War. So he was in Italy during the Second World War. So obviously, I'm pretty sure he saw some things and some stuff and, came back and he wasn't exactly himself and he ended up becoming an alcoholic and he regularly beat Myra when she was a young child. And it's in the words of Elena from Morbid, we can feel sorry for the child Myra and the child Ian, but when they become adults,
that goes out the fucking
window. So we can feel bad for her in this time period, but after this, she knew what she was doing. So the family was poor, and she ended up having to sleep in a bed next to her parents' bed. When she was 5 was when her sister was born in 1946, and so she was sent to live with her grandmother, who was, I think, either across the street or right down the road. It was very close. So she was still, actively at home back and forth, but they ended up sending her there because they really couldn't take care of 2 children at the time. Her dad was the type of person who taught her that violence was the way and taught her to fight and insisted that she stick up for herself. When she was around 8 years old, a boy scratched her and she cried, went home to her dad, who told her that if she did not stick up for himself, or stick up for herself that he was going to beat her with a belt. She went and found the kid and then beat him up. Yeah. So essentially what she was taught was that she could earn her father's praise through violence. And it kind of carried on through life. Henley, who was actually a very good swimmer, she actually was on a swim team when she was in school, lost a friend of hers to drowning in a reservoir. And she basically blamed herself for not being able to rescue him. And it kind of messed up her psyche a little bit. She ended up becoming Catholic, like a baptized Catholic. And she was very strict Catholic for a very long time. That was something that she was very prided in. And she even had a confirmation, her first communion, all of that. So sorry if I hit the thing again. I probably hit the thing again.
How dare you?
I know, right? I keep doing that. It hates me.
Rude.
Very rude. I'm messing with my mic a little bit there. Maybe now I won't hit it again. Okay. When she was 17, she took her first job as a junior clerk at a local electrical engineering firm. So she was like a typist. She basically did all secretarial kind of stuff, running, getting tea, other stuff. When she lost her very first week's paycheck, everybody in the office felt so bad for her because they really liked her that they took a collection to replace it.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, I was like, that's pretty neat. They wouldn't do that at my job.
Oh, no.
I'm kidding. They probably would.
Mine wouldn't.
Oh, they totally would. I work with some of the best people. Like, you just don't know. Like, I love my office. It gets a little catty at times, but I do love the people I work with. At age 17, the same time she started working, she had a relationship with a guy. She became engaged, but she said that the guy was very immature and did not provide the kind of life that she wanted to have. And so she broke it off. She also took...
Well, at least she knew what she wanted.
At least at 17, she was like, nah, this ain't gonna work out for me. But she also took judo lessons. Which that was a random fact, right? She took judo lessons, which tells me that she knew how to defend herself. But the problem was that the people that she was taking the judo lessons with refused to become partners with her because whenever she would get a grip on them, she wouldn't release it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah. She took a job at another engineering company, but was dismissed after she just kept missing work. They were like, yeah, nah, you can't stay here. That's Myra's early life in a nutshell, just to give you an idea of who she was. This is like leading into, okay, so she's a type of person that relates violence to, what's the word I'm looking for? She relates violence to acceptance. Mm-hmm. And so that carries on later.
Validation.
Exactly. So just keep that in mind as the type of mindset she had. So now we're going to jump into Ian Brady. So Ian Brady was born in Glasgow, Scotland, as Ian Duncan Stewart in 1938. January 2nd I think it was, let's see. So I know that second half of January is Aquarius. What I need to do is I need to print out like a zodiac chart, like, and put it on my wall. So I can have it. I am so horrible with it. Okay, so he was, what are we? Capricorn. Yeah. Okay. Capricorn. Ooh, that explains a lot. So this says on here, Capricorns have an impetuous character who are determined and quite careful, which that's bullshit because if he was quite careful, he would never got caught. But anyway, so he was born to Margaret Peggy Stewart. I've always been fascinated with people who are named Margaret and where the hell Peggy comes from out of that.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know. Melissa.
I feel that way with William and Bill.
Melissa's gone. She'll be back.
Oh.
Yeah, she dipped. That happens sometimes. So hopefully she'll be back in a second. I need to figure out where she left off. Ah, there you are.
I'm right here. No, I was listening. I had to go kill a bug.
Oh, no.
My son was freaking out.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. So I was like, oh, no. Where did she go?
No, he was a Capricorn. You don't know where Bill and William get their names mixed together.
No.
Margaret and Peggy.
Margaret and Peggy. Bill and William.
I was listening.
Same thing.
That's like my dad is named Irvin. His nickname is Buddy.
That's true. That's true. Very true. So she was his mother. I can't even talk that. His mother was unmarried, and she claimed that Ian's father was a reporter who died before he was born. And what she ended up doing was she put an ad in the paper asking somebody to watch her son for £1 a week. What she was actually looking for was somebody to basically adopt him, but be like an open adoption so she could hang out with him, still see her son, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And a family by the name of the Sloans was Mary and John, who had...
That's $1.35 a week.
Yeah, well, this is in 1938 too.
That's fair. That's in today's standards.
Yeah, there's a little bit of, but yeah, Mary and John Sloan saw the ad and decided, hey, we already have 4 kids. We don't have that much money, but we'll give love to Ian. And Ian came to live with them, and he took their last name of Sloan. His mother would come visit him. He had a really close relationship with her. She was dating a guy who wanted her to move to Australia with him, and she's no. He doesn't want to move. He wants to stay here. So see ya. Which is very awesome of her. You know what I mean? Like she just almost stayed here.
She didn't actually leave him.
She stayed with her kid. And so that was really neat. And so the Sloans did the best that they could. They had 4 kids of their own, but then they took Brady in, and he was basically like their 5th kid. So he actually had a really good childhood. Between his mother and the Sloans, they did the best that they could for him. But a lot of people, they'll say stuff just because, hey, this was such a huge story back in the day. But they said that Brady was torturing animals at a young age, but he's like, no, that wasn't me. But the thing is, Brady has admitted to so many things that whenever he says no, that didn't happen, I'm inclined to believe him. Because why would you admit to some of the things that you've admitted to, but then say no to others? That's how I look at it. Mm-hmm. But his behavior got even worse when he became a teenager. He was arrested for breaking into homes. He was working when I was like, how old was he? It was like 15, 16 years old. Yeah. He was about 15 or 16 years old. He started working for a butcher messenger boy. So basically he was like taking orders and bringing them back, that kind of thing. He had a girlfriend, but she broke up with him whenever he threatened her with a knife when she went to a dance with another boy. So he had to go to court again. By the time he was on his 17th birthday, he was already on probation. And and his mom ended up moving to Manchester, England, and married Irish fruit merchant named Patrick Brady. So that's how he got Patrick's last name. So within a year of moving to Manchester, Brady was caught with a sack full of lead seals that he had stolen and was trying to smuggle out of the market. Now, I didn't understand what that meant. So basically, lead seals were used to mark documents, and they were important for basically counterfeiting. And I was like, okay, so what do you mean lead seals? So essentially what it was is it was a counterfeiting scheme. So that's the reason why he had to go to jail for 3 months, was because it was basically like almost like counterfeiting. And so that made more sense to me. I was like, oh, okay, I get you now. So it's like printing money, but not. When he was 18, he finally got released, and he went into what they call a Borstal, which is a youth detention center. So even though he was 18, it was like, all right, he's not ready to be released out into the wild. He needs a trade. So that's essentially what they got sent to these places for, was to learn how to do something to put him out there. After, like I said, he was resourceful. So he created his own alcohol one night and got super drunk.
Oh, Lord, he made the hooch.
Yeah, and he ended up getting kicked out of this Borstal. In 1957, he was finally released after all this, and he took a labor job, and then he went to work for a brewery. And then,
I mean, he already knew how to make the alcohol.
Might as well. The thing is, once he got older, he was actually super smart. He's kind of, and you're going to know who I'm talking about whenever I say this. He's so smart, he's dumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he could do anything. If he put his mind to it in a positive way, there's no telling what this man could have done. But unfortunately, he used it for bad. He got offered a clerical job at this place called Millward's, which is a wholesale chemical distribution company. They said that they would always catch him reading. He was very obsessed with Germany and the German atrocities of the Nazis, and he was obsessed with Mein Kampf. Yeah, you see where this is going. This is not going in a good direction. So here's the thing.
It's not going in a good way here.
So like I said, he started in 1959. He took a clerical job at Millward's, which happened to be 2 years before Henley joined Millward's as a typist herself. So that's how they met. They met at the same company. She soon fell in love with Brady, and it became an obsession with him. Like, it wasn't even just, oh, he's cute, I want to talk to him. Like, she would write in her diary about how much she wanted to be with him. And she was dating other guys at this time, but it just wasn't enough for her. She wanted Ian Brady. And so she would try to get up enough courage. And finally, on July 27th of 1961, she finally had, the nerve to go up and talk to him. Finally, in December of that year, so it took him another 5 or 6 months, he finally asked her out on a date, and they went to the movies. And this is how it went. The dates followed a regular pattern: a trip to the movies, usually to watch an X-rated film, and then back to Henley's house to drink some German wine. They would spend lunch breaks at Millward's talking about German or Nazi atrocities. She even began to make herself emulate the Aryan perfection. She bleached blonde her hair and would wear thick crimson lipstick.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Yeah. And this was my favorite quote, and this is what they also said in other podcasts. But they said, within months, Brady had convinced me that there was no God at all. He could have told me that the earth was flat, the moon was made of green cheese, and the sun rose in the west. I would have believed him. Such was his power of persuasion.
So he had that, this is going to come out so wrong, but that Hitler persuasion?
Yeah, he had that power of persuasion. He studied all of that. And they would read books from Friedrich Nietzsche, or they would read Dostoevsky's A Crime and Punishment. They would have like what's the word I'm looking for? They'd have a weird way of looking at things that other people just did not understand, in their opinion.
Yeah.
She became obsessed with guns and would go visit shooting ranges, became very proficient of using a .22 rifle, but apparently she was horrible with handguns.
That's me.
Yeah,
I'm good with a rifle, but you give me a handgun, I'm shit.
Yeah, that was her too. And she did end up getting...
Oh no, I have something in common with this bitch.
Yeah, I'm sorry. At least you're not a Leo. I'm just kidding.
That's fair.
You guys.
Sorry, I had to. So they became obsessed with photography as well. So Brady had one of those old school like box cameras. And so they would take them and they would do photo shoots with each other. And sometimes it would be like explicit photo shoots. And Myra started dressing more provocatively, wearing really short skirts and really tall high heel boots. And basically they became entwined in one another and less sociable to others, essentially. As in most situations where we know that this is not going to turn out very well, they became infatuated with death, essentially. I should say Ian Brady himself was the one who became obsessed with committing the perfect murder. And they talk about a book called Compulsion, which is written by Meyer Levin. And essentially, it's a story about two men who commit the perfect murder of a 12-year-old boy and then escape the death penalty because of their age. So he's, okay, cool. So if they can do it, we can do it.
We can.
All right. Keep in mind, Henley's still living with her grandmother at the time. This is in 1963. And Ian moves in with her at her grandmother's house. And on July 12th, they finally made through on their fantasy and killed their very first victim, Pauline Reed, who attended school with Henley's younger sister, Maureen.
This is where it starts getting fucked up.
Yeah, this is where it starts getting really bad. The thing is, Maureen had been in a relationship with a boy by the name of David Smith, who had already 3 criminal convictions for minor crimes. So they were looking at him more so than anything. They were like, oh, well, this guy, friends with Pauline Reed and also with Maureen. He's 15 years old, knows them very well. He's possibly the one. But even though they said that, they did some very thorough investigations and determined that he was not involved in her death. But obviously, then it became a cold case because they didn't have any more information. That was the start of what would be to come. The next victim was John Kilbride. Was killed on November 23rd. He failed to return home, and they were like, that's not, normal for him to not tell people where he's going or, anything like that. And what happened was Henley did not have a driver's license, but somehow or another she was able to continuously rent vans and vehicles. I don't understand how that works, but again, this is like what, the 60s? I don't know. Maybe just be like, I want to borrow that one.
All right, cool.
Just sign this piece of paper.
Here's your keys.
Here's your keys. And apparently they had become obsessed with the Saddleworth Moor. And in case you don't know what a moor is, for our listeners, let me explain what a moor is. So essentially it is a vast piece of land in England that, think of it as like a prairie, but hilly.
A fjord.
Yes. Some of them have like little swampy areas. Some of it is just, it can be very muddy. It can be dry. It just depends. But yeah, I've seen pictures of this particular place that they're talking about, and it's actually very beautiful. And unfortunately, the beauty gets turned away by the things that happen there. But essentially, they would kidnap and kill John Kilbride, and then next with Keith Bennett on the 16th of June, 1964. And the murder of Keith Bennett, his his stepfather, his name is Jimmy Johnson, became a suspect. They took him in for questioning several times, and they even searched under floorboards. And they just couldn't link anything to him. Maureen ended up marrying David Smith. Remember David Smith, the one that was being accused of Pauline Reed's disappearance. Obviously, like, this was very interesting because apparently Maureen was actually pregnant at the time. And that for some reason it really upset Henley or Myra Hindley. And we don't know why. For some reason, that in itself, like, it sent her on a weird mindset. And they don't know if, like, maybe it was like a jealousy thing or what, but she just did not like it for some strange reason. But the thing is, Ian Brady actually liked David Smith. He said he was very impressed with his personality and wanted to become friends with him. So they ended up becoming friends, and they talked about all kinds of stuff, including robbing a bank.
Oh, Lord.
Real winner.
Yeah, it's just okay. So yeah, out of the whole jealousy thing, like I said, because she was super jealous of David Smith and Ian Brady's friendship. And in the process of that happening, she was like, who can I be friends with now? And she's like, I guess my sister, because he's going to be hanging out with David Smith all this time. I should just be hanging out with my sister, because then, just be the 4 of us. Here's the thing. David Smith wasn't as bad as Ian Brady thought he was. And what ended up happening, sorry, I'm just trying to piece this together in my head because I want to make sure this is right. But actually, let's see here. I want to go back a minute. I don't want to go back through and just keep doing. Sorry, I'm just going through my bullet points here. I think I missed something. Okay. Yeah, I did. All right. So let's go back for a second here before we start going on about the whole David Smith and Ian Brady friendship thing. Just to give you an idea of what happened with Pauline Reed, because I missed that whole thing about explaining what happened. I just skipped over it. On July 12th of 1963, obviously I discussed that Brady had said that he wanted to commit the perfect murder. And Myra was like, all right, what do you want to do? And he's like, I need for you to go get a van. Like I said, they just somehow or another continuously get vehicles without a license. But anyway, so he asked her to go get a van. And whenever she would get in the van, she would drive it down a road. And whenever he spotted somebody that he wanted her to kidnap, he was following her with a motorcycle and he would flash his light, right? He saw this young girl, and Henley didn't want to stop because she recognized the girl as an 8-year-old neighbor of her mother. So she was like, no, that's not going to work. So sometime after 7:30 p.m., he finally signaled for her to stop for 16-year-old Pauline Reed, who happened to be Maureen's sister her sister Maureen's friend on the way to a dance. So Henley offered her a ride, and once she was in the van, Henley asked her to help in searching Saddleworth Moor for an expensive glove. Weird, but okay. And she agreed. She's like, hey, I know you, so let's go. I'll go help you do this. It's not a big deal. When they arrived at the Saddleworth Moor, Brady took Reed into the moor and returned alone after about 30 minutes. And then he took Myra Hindley to the spot where Reed was dying. She had been nearly decapitated, and she could not scream because of it. When Myra asked Ian Brady whether or not he had raped Reed, he said, of course I did. Of course I did. What are you expecting? And he told her to go get a shovel that he had hidden nearby, and they buried her right there in the Saddleworth Moor. Yeah, there's that. Again, like I had talked about with John Kilbride, they were doing the same thing where he would signal Myra Henley for stopping and finding their next victim. They offered 12-year-old, yes, I said 12-year-old, John Kilbride to live home, saying his parents might worried he'd be out so late. They also promised him alcohol. Once they were inside a rented car that Myra Hindley had got, said that they were going to make a detour to get the alcohol. They got on another detour to search for a lost glove again. And whenever they got Kilbride to the moor, Ian Brady sexually assaulted him and slit his throat with a serrated blade, strangling him with a shoelace, and then ended up leaving him in the moor.
Shit.
Yeah. Keith Bennett, who was on his way home from his grandmother's house, Myra asked him to help pack some boxes into a storage building, into a car that she had rented, again, another rental. And she was in a van at the time, though. And Brady was in the back of the van. He did not know that. And whenever they got him into the vehicle, they took him to the moor again, supposedly looking for that lost glove again.
That damn lost glove.
Did the same thing. He had come back without Keith Bennett, where he had sexually assaulted him and strangled him again with that shoestring. So this continues on, right? Like, they become more and more obsessed with finding people and killing them. And at the time, the police were starting to become a little suspicious that children were starting to go missing and that something just didn't seem right. Again, like I said, David Smith and Ian Brady were BFFs, and keep that in mind because that comes in handy later. And so this was in June of 1964 whenever Keith Bennett went missing. So by December of 1964, they were driving again. They saw 10-year-old Leslie Ann Downey walking by herself with some packages. They asked her if she needed some help, and she said absolutely. and they took her to, this time, instead of to the moors, they took her directly to a house, her grandmother's house. They maintain that whenever they got her to the house, she was cold and she needed a warm bath. So they got her there and they just gave her a bath. And whenever they came into the bathroom, she was already dead. But actually what ended up happening was she was forced to undress, she was gagged, and then forced to pose for photographs before being raped and killed with a piece of string. Of course, they drove her body to the Saddleworth Moor and buried her in a shallow grave. Then the next year, I don't understand their psychopathology on their kills. I don't know if maybe there was something going on between, or maybe there were more victims that they just don't know about. But the next one did not happen until October of 1965, when Myra Hindley drove Ian Brady to the Manchester railway station, and she waited in the car while he found a victim. He came back with 17-year-old Edward Evans, introduced Henley as his sister. Brady later claimed that he had picked up Evans for a sexual encounter, and they drove Brady and Henley's home on Waterbrook Avenue. Of course, obviously, that was Henley's grandmother's house. And they went to go get David Smith because he wanted to see, he was basically wanting to show off for David Smith. Yeah. Basically, what happened was he felt like he could trust David Smith enough to kill this boy in front of him, because he thought that he had groomed David Smith enough to accept all of this. Myra Hindley returned with David Smith and told him to wait outside for a signal, which was a flashlight. And when the signal came, Smith knocked on the door and was met by Brady, who asked if he had come for the miniature wine bottles, because apparently that's what, I don't know. For some reason, that was like a code or something. And this is what David Smith later told the police. I waited about a minute or two, then suddenly I heard a hell of a scream. It sounded like a woman, really high-pitched. The screams carried on one after another, really loud. Then I heard Myra shout, "Dave, help him," very loud. When I ran in, I just stood inside the living room and I saw a young lad. He was lying with his head and shoulders on the couch and his legs were on the floor. He was facing upwards. Ian was standing over him, facing him with his legs on either side of the young lad's legs. The lad was screaming. Ian had a hatchet in his hand, and he was holding it above his head, and he hit the lad on the left side of his head with the hatchet. I heard the blow. It was a terrible, hard blow. It sounded horrible. Smith then watched Brady throttle Evans with a length of electrical cord. Brady sprained his ankle in the struggle, and Evans' body was too heavy for Smith to carry to the car on his own, so they wrapped the plastic sheeting and put it in the spare bedroom.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. But here's the thing, though. Some people develop consciences. And in this story, David Smith was that conscience. He agreed to return and help dispose of the body at around, because he arrived at home around 3 a.m. He goes back to Maureen and I need for you to make me a cup of tea. He drank it and then threw up, telling her everything that happened. At 6:10 a.m., having waited for daylight, they got a screwdriver and a bread knife in case Brady was going to come and get them. And Smith went to a police phone, or to a phone box. Those little red phone boxes in England.
Mm-hmm.
He went to one of those and called the police officers and told them what he had witnessed the night before.
God damn.
So what it came down to was the fact that Ian Brady would probably have never been caught if it had not been for him trusting David Smith, who he thought that he had some sort of kinship with, and that he thought that he could have this thing in common. They could be best friends over murder. And that was not the case.
That was just his dumbass fault.
Yeah. She, aka Henley, said that there had actually been no violence, and she didn't know what he was talking. She told the police she didn't know what they were talking about. That was not something that actually happened. And then Brady said that Edward had the boy, Edward Evans, had him and Edward got into an argument, and it was a situation that got out of hand. Myra Hindley was not arrested at first. Only Brady was, because he was the one that was actually seen doing any of the damage to Edward Evans. Since Henley was not arrested, she felt like she needed to be there for Ian Brady. So she went to her employer and begged them to be dismissed so she could get unemployment benefits. Essentially what ended up happening was neighbors started speaking out about sounds. They found photographs for places in the moors. Smith had told police that Brady had boasted of photographic proof of the murders. And what they ended up doing was they started going through some of the photos, and actually the photos linked them to where the bodies were of all their victims. So essentially what had happened was Ian Brady was taking pictures of Myra Hindley at the spots where they had actually buried or killed their victims.
Almost like a trophy.
Exactly. So what ended up happening was they ended up linking the two of them through those photographic evidences, through the confessions of David Smith, and eventually the confessions from Ian Brady and Myra Hindley themselves. Even though they entered pleas of not guilty, Brady testified for over 8 hours, Hindley for 6. He did admit that he struck Evans with an axe, but that someone else had killed Evans, pointing to the pathologist's statement that death had been accelerated by strangulation, stating that Myra was the one who probably strangled him, but they didn't have any proof of that. So it was kind of more of a he said, she said kind of situation. They turned on one another, which is not surprising in this situation. And essentially, there was a 16-minute tape recording, and this is the one that is absolutely disturbing. What ended up happening was the murders of, I'm trying to remember who it was. Hold on one second. It was Downey. Yeah, because she was the one that was in the house. Okay. There was a 16-minute tape recording where you could hear, this is right around Christmas time, the little drummer boy playing in the background over and over again.
Never going to look at that song the same way now.
No. And in fact, the police officers who had to listen to this tape recording said that they had a visceral, what's the word?
Reaction.
Thank you. Reaction to any time that they hear the little drummer boy now because of this tape. And in it, she was screaming. She was just making horrific sounds. And that was used in the trial as well. So the jury deliberated for 2 hours and found Brady guilty of 3 murders and Henley guilty of the murders of Downey and Evans. So they were sent to...
That's a quick deliberation.
Usually when they deliberate that short, usually it means it's going to be a guilty verdict.
Yeah, it's quick.
Yeah.
Because normally doesn't that take like days?
Right, exactly. Normally, in normal circumstances, if it's overwhelming evidence, it will take at least a day. And the reason why, especially in the United States, because a lot of times when you're talking first-degree murder charges, a lot of those have to be unanimous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And because those have to be unanimous, usually there's a holdout. So it's usually trying to convince that holdout, hey, here's the reason why we need to convict. And so that's the reason why it usually takes a little bit longer, because usually you'll have somebody that's just either against the death penalty or something like that.
Something.
But
or they're just not convinced.
Exactly. There's just not enough evidence to convict, and they're just not sure that they're doing the right thing. But in this situation, there was more than enough evidence between the photographic evidence, the tape recording, the blood typing that was done. The blood type that was found inside of Ian and Myra's house was a match with Downey's blood. And because of that, they decided that all of this was enough to convict them, and they ended up getting sentenced to life imprisonment because the death penalty had been abolished while they were being held on remand. Yeah, that is the story of Ian Brady and Myra Hindley. Definitely not done as in thoroughness as other podcasts, but it's still very fucked up. I can't ever look at moors the same again because I used to think they were absolutely beautiful, and now they've fucked that up for me because they're like beautiful places to take photographs. Absolutely beautiful. So I can see their fascination with taking their photographs there.
At the same time, that's fucked.
Exactly. So they think that there's more bodies, and I don't use that. I don't like say I hate using the word more, but anyway, they think that there are definitely more bodies, and there may have been more people that were killed, but they can't leak any of them right now. So yeah, there's that.
Good. Yeah, good job.
That was a lot. Just to let you guys know, Ian Brady and Myra Hindley both died in prison. Let's see here. Myra Hindley died of bronchial pneumonia on November 15th of 2002. She was 60 years old. And Brady had COPD that was really bad and ended up killing him eventually on May 15th, 2017. He was 79. So they actually... he just recently died. And it was in the last 5 years, 6 years. Yeah.
Shit.
Yep. And just a little bit of a kind of interesting tidbit on this. There was an episode of Criminal Minds, season 2 episode called The Perfect Storm.
Yes.
In the episode, it was called
Yes.
Yeah.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. We just watched it.
Yeah. So that was based on this particular story.
Yeah, I just watched that one.
Yeah, I
think 2 days ago.
Yes, there were only 5 known victims, but just the veracity.
That's 5 too many.
This is 5 too many, and the veracity in which it was done, like the fact that they were all tortured and they were all under the age of 17 is just super sad. So there's that.
Good job.
Oh, thank you.
I hate to say good job with such a fucked up story, but
yeah.
I'm wondering if either of you two had this thought, but was he in a sexual relationship with Ian Bradley? Or Brady, David Smith and Ian Brady? Were they in a sexual relationship?
They don't know. David Smith has never actually said so.
I feel like, because they got close and they got close quick. And then just for me, my thought was what if Ian was feeding things to David, but instead of David being whoa, man, you're being crazy, you're just a friend.
Mm-hmm.
If they had a sexual relationship, I wonder if it would allow him some more leniency to slowly get into his head.
Everything that I looked into, because I had actually had a little bit of the same thought as well, because I'm like, all right, I love Melissa to death, but she ever invited me over and was like, hey, I want you to kill this person with me. I would be like,
wait a minute.
No.
Vice versa there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sorry. There's just certain things that
there's a lot.
I mean, I'll come help her move.
Depending on the situation.
Yeah, depending on the situation, I will come and help her. But that to me, just no.
You don't just invite a friend over to do
right,
that.
Exactly.
No, you don't invite an acquaintance over.
And with knowing how he was so neo-Nazi, and obviously with neo-Nazi, you're not going to be telling people, hey, I'm attracted to the same sex.
Exactly.
You're not going to be open about it. So did they have the secret that they were sharing together that made him feel more comfortable to share even more things that he knew would be viewed as wrong?
Right. Actually,
that's a good point.
That is a really good point. And from my understanding, it was just a situation where Ian Brady saw David Smith as another version of him, because he knew that David Smith had a little bit of a shady past with robberies and things like that. So he thought, hey, here's this guy who has basically the same kind of mindset that I do. And let's see how far we can push this. I think that was his mindset, was let's see how far we can push this relationship. Let's see how far we can push this friendship. And I think David Smith, who luckily has a conscience and was like, this isn't my cup of tea. This is not my forte. I don't condone this. And it actually took a toll on Maureen as well. I think they broke up after this happened. So yeah. And they also tried, and also too, I think another reason I think about this is a different situation is Myra Hindley and Ian Brady could have brought David Smith in to make him a scapegoat, because he did have he had a bad home life. David Smith had a past. He had all those convictions and everything like that. So they were like, okay, so if we bring this guy in, he can take the fall for us. and we won't get in any trouble.
But that's assuming that they would have got caught. You know what I mean? Because you had said earlier, if David Smith hadn't narked, would they have ever gotten caught?
No, and that's what a lot of people wonder too, is if it hasn't been. David Smith was like the hero and also the last victim, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, yeah, David Smith was the whole reason why any of this was even brought to light. You could see how obviously he was scared enough to like grab Maureen and some weapons and be like, hey, we've got to report this. Like, they weaponed up. We know how this guy is, and he could easily kill us. And so,
not think twice about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I partly wonder if David Smith had not been involved, if over time Henley would have turned on Brady, because just the statement of the killing, and if I remember correctly, I think it was Pauline, the first one, where she had asked if he had sexually assaulted. It makes me wonder if she was a little jealous of the fact that he sexually assaulted the victims. And wonder if she was ever involved.
Okay, now that you brought that up, that was something that I forgot to bring up. There was a little bit of jealousy in a couple of the victims, from my understanding. She felt he was more into killing than he was with her, I guess you could say. And it made her feel like, if I don't participate, if I'm not involved in this, he'll drop me and continue killing, was essentially probably her mindset in that aspect. So, yeah, Henley, she was obsessed with him to a point where she would have followed him anywhere, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And that was obvious in the very beginning when she first met him and everything. So, yeah, there's that. I think that regardless of if Myra Hindley was involved with him or not, he still would have become the person he is today, or was at that point.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I think she just became a partner in crime, literally. But yeah, so that's them. There's a lot of books that have been written about this story. A lot. There's an actual documentary on Amazon Prime about the Moores murders. It's a little slow. You got to just kind of get through it. It's definitely not. If you've ever watched any English documentaries on serial killers, theirs are very different than Americanized ones.
They are.
And so that's how I'm going to put it without offending anybody. But yeah, it's a little hard to get through, but it's really good. But one of the things that got me was like, I am a huge Smiths fan. Huge. Love the Smiths. They wrote a song about the Moores murders called Suffer Little Children in their self-titled debut album.
Huh.
Yep. So that was a little bit of information for me because I love the Smiths. So, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yep. That's the story of Ian Brady and Myra Hindley. Not an easy one to do because there's so much information. Wish I could have broken it down into two, but I just can't. That's just that the information that's in there is, some of it's just so disturbing. I just can't handle it. So I was just like,
I feel like Ian was doing this before he met her.
It's a possibility because they did say that he was, from witnesses and other things, that he was torturing animals. But again, like I said, in that aspect, he stated that wasn't the case, but he admitted and confessed to all these other crimes. So if he's going to do that, then, why lie about anything else? So I don't know. There's that good possibility that before Myra came along that there was something else that took place, but I don't know. They don't have any proof or anything about that. So
I feel like we just listened to Bonnie and Clyde on steroids.
Yeah, they're definitely compared to it. And there's another killer couple. God, I keep hitting my microphone. What is her name? I can never remember. Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that story?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm eventually going to do a story on that. It's the same situation as Ian Brady and Myra Hindley, but they're in Canada.
Oh, Canada.
Yeah, it's like, what? This actually came from Canadians? What? Yeah. So, but yeah, that's it. That's the story. But anyway, thank you so much for being with us today, Christina. We appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the story.
Yeah, I did. Thanks for I've been literally searching images as you were talking.
Yeah, they're
trying to get a picture of these people, and they are quite characters.
Oh yeah, especially with her dyed blonde hair. Yeah, that
Mhm.
bouffant, the old.
Not the bouffant
Oh
hair.
yeah, they both have like that old. He's got that what they call pompadour hairstyle.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
He looks like a character off of Peaky
He
Blinders.
doesn't he? I thought the same thing.
Literally, the first thing I thought of, I was like, huh.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought of too. I was like, wow, this guy is something else. But yeah, they anyway. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening today. Thank you to our special guests, and thank you for all of the likes on Facebook, all of the likes on Twitter, over on Instagram, where you can find us at Dark Podcast US. You can email us at what, Melissa?
Oh no, darkpodcastemail@gmail.com.
Did you almost? It happens. It happens. And you can find.
You put me on the spot. I forgot.
Sorry. And you can find Christina's amazing Red Rum Cosmetics products at what, Christina?
RedRumCosmetics.com.
And what's your socials?
At Red Rum Cosmetics.
Awesome. Awesome sauce. So you guys have a good rest of the week. And as always, stay out of the dark.